Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Trevor. Welcome to Shieldme Radio, a podcast about games. I think the header I have on the website is like a open-minded take on the gaming industry or something like that. I'm trying to remember what I put there, but that's kind of what we're going to be getting into here. Today I have Michael with me. Michael, since this is your first time on this podcast, why don't you go ahead and give us a little brief introduction about, well, because this is what I did last time, a brief introduction about like where you got your start in gaming. So go back as far as you need to go and kind of give us a really brief, I guess, history of games and where you picked them up.
Sure, absolutely. So, as you guys have heard, my name is Michael. Trevor and I have known each other for a very, very long time. But to the point about gaming, I've been gaming pretty much ever since I was about, I guess, like 7 or 8 years old. I got my first N64 when I was 7. Got thoroughly addicted to that, as most 7-year-olds my age did. And then from there, stuck with console gaming for a while until I got my first laptop from my dad. And then from there, I pretty much went full to computer gaming. As we might cover eventually, I've had a very long past with like MMOs, specifically WoW.
Wait, is that the same laptop you still have right now?
No, it's not.
Okay.
That laptop was, I think when I got that laptop, it was like 2002 maybe.
Whoa!
2003.
So I don't even know about that laptop. Okay.
Yeah, it was the first laptop I ever started playing StarCraft on, and the only reason why I was able to start playing StarCraft was I managed to convince my parents to let me play because one of our mutual friends back then, Curtis, if you remember, his mom, who was a principal, said he could play it. So they're like, oh, well, I guess if she says it's okay, then it's okay for you.
My parents they never went on that stuff. I had to like convince them myself, which sucked. But I just remember you having this big computer with the CRT monitor. I remember you playing Diablo on that. Oh
yeah, the CRT. I'm trying to remember what computer that was. That was in between getting at that point my new computer, which I got when I was about 14, 15 years old, which I actually still use one of the hard drives from it. The hard drive is just lasted forever.
I'm very impressed by that, actually. It's a little scary.
I will say this, I have backed it up, so we don't have to worry about that.
That's good.
But yeah, I guess kind of to finish off the gaming thing though, I've since coming to university, I've spent less time gaming, but even then I still get around. Like recently I've been playing a lot of League of Legends. That's been something that I find particularly fun. And as we can discuss later if you're so interested, I actually got access to a beta account for Overwatch.
Oh, so that'll be fun. Yeah.
That has been quite the experience.
Yeah, so you got a laptop in 2002. You started playing StarCraft on it. Where did you go from there?
From there, I went to Counter-Strike Source, actually. Counter-Strike Source was the first game that I really, other than maybe Diablo, because I played Diablo and then like Lord of Destruction, Diablo 2 specifically. And I played that quite a bit. As you might remember, I had multiple level 99s. It was basically what I played during middle school when I was playing football.
Okay.
But from there, I went to Counter-Strike Source, and for a little while, I played, semi-professionally. I got invited to some Cal I events, some Cal Open events. So those were pretty fun, but it wasn't feasible for me to maintain over the long term. Only because
you have to be deathmatching every day for a couple hours to maintain that level of play.
Yeah, well, deathmatching, then you have scrims, and then we'd be building competition maps. Like we would basically practice in kind of custom made maps that so we could kind of come up with strategies, I guess. So that was fun, but as
big time sink.
Yeah, exactly. I think at my record, I was doing about 10 hours a day.
Man,
practicing.
There are not many games that have been able to do that to me. I think maybe H1Z1 and World of Warcraft, maybe RuneScape as well. I think maybe those three games are the only games I've been able to sink that much time into in a day.
Yeah, and it takes a special kind of person to be able to do that, and I wasn't able to maintain that. So, credit where credit is due. Like, I was watching some of the CS:GO stuff from MLG, and some of the League LCS stuff, and both of those, all the top teams from both those games practice an absurd amount of hours every single day.
It's impressive they don't get burned out. That's my problem. I get burned out very quickly if I'm playing that much of any game. So very impressive. Well, I think we can jump into what we've been playing. Michael, if you want to start us off just in the past couple of weeks or months, I guess. Since this is the first episode here of this podcast, we can talk about we can go back a little farther than we typically would.
Sure, absolutely. So for a while, I was playing Diablo 3, and
was this post most recent patch?
Well, yeah, I suppose. I went back about a month or so, maybe 2 months, and I was actually playing consistently Diablo 3. But my problem was I just felt like the pure grind of those kind of games has kind of lost its interest for me a little bit. Kind of on the same lines, I tried playing some Path of Exile as you joined me for a little bit, but I just kind of fell off with that because I felt like it wasn't as rewarding as some of the progression systems in different games like League of Legends that I've actually been playing a lot recently.
Yeah, you've actually, this is, I think, the longest time you or I, well, between the two of us, I mean, you've been playing League of Legends consistently for a while now, which typically in the past, you or I would play a couple games, maybe 1 or 2 weeks of League of Legends and just kind of fall off on playing it consistently, at least.
Yeah, exactly. And I've noticed that, at least for me, one of the main reasons why I think I'm enjoying it more now is I've actually picked a role and I've stuck with it, versus before I would try and jump around too much and I would never really get the hang of what it was that I was trying to do.
Right.
So now I've picked up support and jungle main. And especially now they integrated this dynamic queue feature, and you can go on places like, the League of Legends subreddit or the League of Legends forums, and people are complaining about the dynamic queue. But personally, I actually really enjoy it. And for those people who might not know about it, or if you don't know about it, basically what they're doing is they allow you to pick 2 roles, and then the game will only put you in games where one of those 2 roles are needed.
So I have to ask, is this different than the sort of new type of queue they had? Last time I played a couple months ago, you could choose your role and jump into a queue.
So that was Team Builder.
Team Builder, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And Team Builder was slightly different in that with Team Builder, you actually got to pick your champion as well. Okay. So there was no drafting system in the Team Builder game type, I guess. And because of that, you kind of lost some of the competitive aspect, whereas now, or at least in my opinion, you did. Now you have this new system where everyone is put into a role. So now if somebody just kind of troll picks, it's easier to prove that they should be banned. But at the same time, instead of having one person, the top person in the team, picking all the bans, you actually now have 3 people per team picking bans. So it's spread out across everyone.
I see.
The queue time does take longer.
So this is draft mode?
Yes. This is all the modes now.
Okay. So you're talking about draft mode specifically, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So recently, I've actually been playing some ranked as well, which I never used to do because I still have a hard time with it sometimes because, admittedly, the community from League of Legends can be a little bit toxic.
A little bit toxic.
So you go into a game and then you miss. I was playing Morgana the other day, and you miss a couple of your Qs, her Dark Binding, and suddenly people are saying that you suck, report Morgana for trolling or feeding. I hope your mom gets cancer is one that's particularly fun to hear
in ranked
time. Oh, in both, yeah, in ranked and standard.
I thought ranked would have been a little more focused. That's kind of interesting.
You would think, but then again, I think part of it is I'm still kind of low in the elo.
Right, you're still breaking out of the cesspool, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. But that said, I have some friends who are platinum level, and they've even said themselves that it never really changes. People just learn to keep it to themselves. Mm-hmm. So it's like, part of my problem is I actually got placed lower this season because the new way that they organize people into your league after you've done your placement matches, I happen to place a little bit lower, and it just seems to be harder to get out of. I'm right now in bronze 1, so I'm by no means very good, but it's still a very fun game to play, just because of the skill cap associated with it.
Yeah, definitely. Have you been playing anything else?
I have not.
Just a lot of League of Legends?
Just a lot of League of Legends. Well, okay, I take that back. I have been playing a little bit. So I got access to the Overwatch beta.
Oh, that's right.
And
which did just open, like, was it 2-3 days ago? It came back?
Exactly. I believe it was on Tuesday.
Okay.
But, that game is perfect. It is everything that I hoped Blizzard would do with a new game. Primarily, it has something to do with the kind of relationship between that Team Fortress 2 and League of Legends, in that what they did with Overwatch is they made it remarkably unique in terms of each hero's kit, so to speak.
Right.
And I feel like every character feels legitimately different, which is a really cool feeling. The only other game I really get that feeling is with League of Legends. So
I think what really
I like it.
I think what really draws me to that game is, I mean, aesthetics and all the high production quality aside, the game is, I mean, seems to be, for how it's, I mean, open beta is around the corner here, but it seems to be very, very well balanced. And I think that people who don't think that aren't really playing the game correctly. I've also had a chance to play around with it on one of my friends' accounts. And the game seems to, I don't know if they're going to do this for competitive, but the game seems to be built around the fact that you can switch heroes mid-game. So if the team decides to use something that's kind of lousy, like, you know, have 5 turrets or something like that. I don't know the name of the characters. I haven't played all that much. There are counters to that. You know, you can quickly, like in TF2, switch to a role that's going to be more suitable for countering your enemies and run in there. And I don't know. It's really nice to play a game where you can quite easily get like into games that are really hard fought battles, and you know, it kind of goes back and forth.
Absolutely. And one of the things they have done recently that I like is the introduction of a new game mode, actually. They've added in, it's essentially a 3-round version of point control. But basically what happens is over the space of a map, there are 3 separate points, and each round you vie for 1 point. So it's very focused. And it requires a very different team composition than, let's say, when you're doing payload.
Yeah.
Because payload, you need a team that's both very mobile, but that's able to fight in the tight corridors around the payload. Versus with a game type like the point and capture game type, you need to have a team that's very good at locking down an area and not letting anyone else in. So, for example, what a champion that is quite good, in my opinion, for payload is what was his name? Not Trebjorn, but
the other turret guy.
No, it's the tank. It's the guy with the giant hammer. I know
who you're talking about. Yeah.
But anyways, he's really good for payload because you can block off all damage in front of the payload. Conversely, with the game type of capturing a point and holding it up to 100% of resources is Winston. because Winston puts down an AoE shield, and because he can put down an AoE shield, it's easier to set up turrets inside of that and keep the turrets safe while allowing the turrets to shoot out of the shield, versus with, let's say,
the other guy, it's one
Diva.
directional.
Diva's another example where Diva's very one-directional tank, but she's also very high damage output. So she might be better for something like payload. So overall, I think, and to your point, that game is very unique in that it requires people to think on their feet and decide what the best counter pick to the current team they're playing against.
Right.
You could start out with, both teams having a certain composition, and by the end of the game, you could have a completely different environment in that game.
Yeah, and it changes a lot throughout the game as well, very quickly.
Precisely. Even from point to point inside a game. So if you're doing there's the like 3-point capture one where there's a 3-round one, and then there's the single round, but it's attack and defend kind of thing. You can even have different team compositions between those points, because there might be certain choke points that are there in certain parts of the match that aren't there in others. So overall, I think it's just a glorious game.
Yeah, it looks good, and I think it's coming out in a couple months now. We're coming up to that. I think they said it was going to come out spring 2016. I think that's what I saw.
They did, and I believe the number that I saw was, they said before or on 6. I think it was 6/15. So somewhere in the middle.
So we still have a couple months
of June. Yeah.
Okay.
That's at the very latest, though. It could come out before that. They so decide that they're ready to ship. But knowing Blizzard, they're very precise about making sure their game are done.
Yes.
Games, rather. What are you playing right now, though?
I'm playing a couple of things, actually. The thing I've been playing most, and I talked about in the last podcast a little bit, but I have a little bit more to talk about today, is H1Z1. Been playing a good amount of H1Z1. That I've been also playing Firewatch, which I was talking to you about yesterday a little bit, and Civ 5. I finally decided to try out Civ 5, and kind of was surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because it's a turn-based strategy game, and I have never really been able to get into turn-based strategy. But I'm really into Civ 5, so I'm kind of surprised by myself.
What about it makes it so compelling, do you think?
It's a combination of a lot of things. I think, for one, it feels very polished. It's a game that came out, I think, in like 2010 or 2011, and it's still a really aesthetically pleasing experience, which is interesting. They really nailed the style, kind of like what Blizzard does with World of Warcraft and Overwatch and Hearthstone. It's a very, very stylized look that doesn't have to be photorealistic to be impressive looking, But Civ 5, I don't really know how to explain it, because the pacing is definitely a lot slower than, obviously a real-time strategy game. But for some reason with Civ 5, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is. I really, really enjoy kind of going through the tech trees, and I guess it might be the fact that win conditions, there's a lot of different win conditions in the game. So you don't actually have to go and fight and kill your opponent with soldiers or an army or something like that. You can I think if you it depends on the game type you play, but I think if you complete the tech tree, you're able to actually just win the game. And there's a lot of diplomacy type things going on there, but I think it's basic enough to where anyone can jump into it and grasp it. I mean, at first that was kind of what was turned me away from real turn-based strategy games. It's pretty overwhelming, I think, the amount of content in the game, like how much you have to learn, how many different things it's possible to do. But Civ 5 kind of, if you set it up, can hold your hand and kind of like walk you through while you're playing the game and tell you like, oh, hey, you need to be producing something at this city. Why don't you pick something? So they definitely have some pretty strong tooltips there that help you out if you're a brand new player.
That's definitely how I felt when I played. I don't remember if you remember when I started playing this, but I picked up Rome Total War at one point back in like high school, and it was one of those games where one of our mutual friends at the time was playing it, and he loved it, but I tried playing it, and it was so overwhelming because
it's really daunting just jumping into one of those.
Exactly. The controls, I think, are primarily... It's not necessarily the information, but it's the controls along with the information that is just requiring you to manage so many different things at once. And I think now I would probably enjoy it more just because I've actually learned to enjoy those kind of things in games.
Yeah.
But I've actually been trying to find some new games to play, and that's not necessarily because I don't have I don't own games that I could play right now. It just so happens that most of the games that I own at the moment, I'm not particularly interested in playing. So you had mentioned the Firestorm? Was that the name?
Firewatch is the name of it, actually. Yeah.
Want to go ahead and elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, Firewatch is... I mean, I'm actually going to pull it up on Steam here so I can see what Steam classifies it as, because it's like... Okay, so the reason why I hesitate to say walking simulator is because walking simulator seems to have a bad stigma behind it. This is like a walking simulator with so much more to it. And the only reason why I call it walking simulator is because it's an exploratory game. You're not exactly on rails. You can go different places, but there's really only kind of like a specific way you have to do things. So while you can walk around wherever you want, if you want to advance in the story, you have to be going to certain places.
Sure.
But it's not like on super tight rails. But at the same time, there's okay. So basically, I'm gonna like put up a little spoiler alert right now. Just let everyone know. I'm not gonna like try to spoil very much of the story, but I'm going to talk about the intro a little bit because it's kind of required to talk about the game. Basically, they give you a backstory, and for whatever reason, the main character, the character you're playing, ends up deciding to get away from society, and to do that, he volunteers for a Firewatch program. And I don't know too much about these things, but I believe that parks, in addition to having rangers, have some have Firewatch towers in areas that have really what do you call that? Really high chance of fires breaking out in the wilderness. I don't know what that's called, but areas that have that, they have Firewatch towers up in the mountains, so they can scout out and see if there's any fires happening. So he volunteers for that program, and you basically hike out into the mountains, and you go up to a tower, and basically the game is you walking around while you're talking on a radio to this other lady who is at another Firewatch tower. She's presumably your superior, and kind of just different things that are happening and situations you have to deal with, and I think the most striking thing about the game is the aesthetic and the sound effects. Like it's not photorealistic. It's very stylized, but it's very, very striking. And you'll notice this when you get in. But they did a really good job of kind of capturing the lighting and kind of the mood when you're hiking around sunset and sunrise, and walking through the forest and plains and stuff like that. They really made it. It's a nice place to be. It makes you want. I said this in my commentary for it, but it makes you want to be outside. It's like, man, I need to go on a hike right now because it looks that good. So that's Firewatch in the best way that I can describe it. Let's see what Steam says about Firewatch. Firewatch is popular user-defined tags for this product. Adventure, atmospheric, walking simulator, indie. Does the developer get to classify it? Oh no. Those are the tags that it's been given. It looks like. Wow, it already has over 6,400 reviews on Steam. Very positive.
How long has it been out?
It came out February 9th, so it only came out this last Tuesday. So
Wow.
it looks like it's doing really well. And I completely understand why. I've played about 2 hours. I'm about 2 hours into the game. I'm not exactly sure how long the game is, but it is very, very good. I would highly recommend to anyone who is into game aesthetics at all.
Interesting. So what do you think about? You recently mentioned you've been particularly interested in H1Z1.
Yes.
Recently. What just like if you had to sell that game, how would you put it? Like, why would you say it's a good game?
Well, I think it definitely takes off the bat, it takes a certain type of person to get into that game. So I primarily play survival, and I actually wanted to talk about this with you because I don't know if you know, but H1Z1 has two different game types. It has survival and it has a battle royale. The game they announced last week they're splitting up the game. So it's actually on the 17th, which is this next Wednesday. It's going to be two different games on Steam. It's going to be a survival game and a battle royale game separately. So they said, I don't actually know what they are and aren't doing, but they say that they're splitting the development team. So they're going to have, and they're hiring new people. So they're going to have a development team specifically for survival and a development team specifically for battle royale. Now, like you said with League of Legends and the new queuing up system they implemented, the vocal minority on Reddit doesn't seem to be very happy about this, but they're never happy about anything, so we're not going to dwell on that too much. I personally think this is good just because they are two very different games, and balancing is completely different for the two games. And I think the way they had it set up was everything was kind of global, or the changes they were making was global, like addressing bugs and stuff. I feel like so if they changed damage output or something on something in battle royale, it would have much different outcomes in survival, because it's a very different type of game. So to what you were saying, to sell it to someone, I play survival mostly. I think it's the base building, honestly. And I know that Rust and other games have the base building aspect. But so you played DayZ a little bit with me, right, Michael?
Yeah, I did.
And DayZ, I remember you having difficulty with it, much like I did when I first started, because it's a big map. It's a really big map. It takes time to do things. It takes a lot of time, actually, until you kind of get a grasp of the map. But so with H1Z1, I think the persistent base building is the biggest drawing point for me. That and the gunplay, as bad as it seems sometimes, I think I don't know, the guns. For me, it's always about the guns. Like, that's why I like Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4, because they have some cool guns. The guns sound good to fire. They feel good to fire. It's the same in H1Z1. So basically, typical survival stuff is you get some friends, you get on a server, you start from nothing, and you don't know how to craft anything because they have this mechanic where you have to discover recipes. Mm-hmm. So you basically have to gather from your surroundings, kind of like in the start of Minecraft, and you get to a point where you're building these big, big bases. There are vehicles in the game, so you're collecting vehicles, you're getting these bases. You can start farming to make ethanol, and you can use ethanol to break into people's bases. You can make IEDs as well to break into people's bases and take all their stuff. And that's pretty much the end game, I think, of survival, is raiding other people's bases. But I think that's the biggest draw is being able to build bases and then raid other people's bases. So you can pretty much take down all of their hard work. So the game becomes like, how do I hide all of my important stuff? Or how do I build a base that is very, very difficult to get into? That combined with lots of traps being in the game, you can set landmines down. It's just a really high risk, high reward type of game, much like the RuneScape Wilderness kind of.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's kind of a little bit of like that. I mean, I will be kind of doing my own thing here at home, just like going through my day, and I'll get a Steam message from my friend Beggar, and he'll be like, "Hey, dude, there's like a bunch of guys outside." Like he'll be just in the base. He's like, "I heard a bunch of guys outside. Like log in, like and grab some stuff to log out with, because if you have stuff in chests, they can get to that if they blow down enough doors. But if you log out with it, some of that stuff is safe. So stuff like ammo that's really valuable, I could log out with. But I am more of like, I'm looking for action in that game, especially since we play on lower population servers. So I log in, and sure enough, I hear like footsteps from like 5 or more people outside. And that's a good amount of people in this game. Me and Beggar, we pretty much play just the two of us. Sometimes we have a third friend that joins us, but there are some groups of people on those servers, like 5 to like 50 people, depending on the server size. And so we hear these people running around. They're firing explosive arrows into the base to try to get us. But we have roofs up for the most part, so it doesn't do much. And then there's so Michael, when you're going to raid a base, you walk up to it and you try to like prone on the ground, and you try to like look under the wall to see if you can see what they have, like if they have any vehicles, or if they have any doors that are closed, because if they have doors, that means there might be things in there. And so I see a guy. I'm inside the base. I see a guy proning down, and I open the gate, which is kind of risky, because if they get in there, or if they kill me, the gate is just sitting there open and they can just get in the base. They don't have to blow the gate down. And I just fire a bunch of AK rounds into him and close the gate. So I got one person, and there's still a bunch of people running around. But it's a very it gets your adrenaline going for sure. My heart is racing and stuff, because it's, like I said, it's very high risk. But catching people when they're trying to raid your base is a really, really exciting thing, actually.
Okay, well that sounds actually really cool. I'm pretty much kind of stuck between a couple different games that I'm interested in, because I don't have I have like $60 that I'm willing to spend on a game.
Interesting.
Right now, because I recently got some money from my parents that is free use for whatever I want to use it on. So
that's nice.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm torn between getting maybe like 2 games of like $20, $25 a piece, and playing those 2, or getting one game that I feel okay, this seems like a game that I'm really interested in, and I'm just gonna play a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, the other option that I have is I start pumping more money into League of Legends, which is definitely an option, because obviously there are champions that I want to be able to play that I don't really want to have to save up all the IP for.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be nice in that regard. However, to the point about games, I'm kind of torn between playing a game like H1Z1 or playing like a first-person shooter, because I very much recently enjoy like the high-action games versus kind of more laid-back games.
Yeah.
And that's one of my problems that I actually have with... I don't necessarily have a problem with trying games. And in fact, I would like to try more games. But if once I play a game for a certain amount of hours, which is basically how Steam works, you can't return it, and you can't get your money back.
It's 2 hours. I actually just returned a game that I played a little over 2 hours of the other day. It was another zombie survival game that I was trying out on a friend's recommendation. Didn't really like it, so I returned it at a little over 2 hours, which I was happy about.
Yeah, I the reason why I have a bad taste in my mouth in that regard is at one point I had gotten Darkest Dungeon on Steam, which for people who don't know what that is,
it's a great game.
It is literally the most frustrating game I've ever played in my entire life.
This is true. The dice rolls are what will really turn people away from it. Michael, before you go any further, let me just tell you though, the game is fully released now, very polished, and there are options you can turn on and off for like that random stupid stuff that happens sometimes that just destroys you. So you can like tweak the difficulty a little bit. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, that is interesting, and I might look into that again. However, I think I'm leaning more towards an action-based game. And if what you're saying is correct about H1Z1, that it's kind of a mix between building and action, then I'm definitely down to try it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's $20 right now?
Yeah, so the reason why I would suggest H1Z1 right now is because on the 17th, you're going to have to buy both games if you want H1Z1 like survival and battle royale. Right now, it's like, I think it actually might even be on sale right now as well. But if you buy the game, like everyone that already owns it gets both games.
Gotcha.
Now, even if H1Z1 goes on sale over the summer, you're probably going to pay the same price, if not a little more, than what you're going to pay right now, just because you're going to have to buy 2 games.
Sure, unless I decided that there was one version of the game that I didn't want to play. So
correct. But I will say that Battle Royale is invaluable. Is invaluable the right word? It's very valuable because it allows you to jump in the game and quickly start shooting people. So it's like a really good way to learn how the guns work and get a feel for the guns. Because if you just jump into survival, you almost never get into fights. It's like DayZ where unless you're playing on a high population server, you're not going to be shooting at people all day. Whereas Battle Royale, in like a minute, you can be dropping into a map with 150 other people, with guns and stuff everywhere.
Okay, that is a very interesting notion then. So if I were to say that I was interested in an FPS, fast style FPS, what kind of recommendations are you going to make other than something like CSGO, which I already own?
First person shooters. Black Ops is a pretty strong contender, but for me, I really like the zombie mode, and that's why it's a strong contender for me. Online play right now on Black Ops seems to be pretty weak. Not very many people are playing it. If you jump into Black Ops on PC, you pretty much have to play Team Deathmatch and during prime time, because like if you try to play other game modes, you can't even find games. It's really sad. I don't know if there's an issue going on there. I think that they split up. They made too many playlists. Like there's too many playlists to queue for, and everyone just queues up for Team Deathmatch. So it's tough to like. If I want to play domination, or if I want to, do you remember what Ground War was?
Yes,
I don't know if you played Modern War.
Yeah.
It's like 18 people. You can't find anyone in Ground War games. You can't like. There's no. They have dedicated servers, but they don't have community dedicated servers. So you still are queuing up into lobbies with people, and then you're put onto a dedicated server, which is unfortunate. But honestly, that's the only first-person shooter I've been playing besides H1Z1, and H1Z1 isn't really a first-person shooter just because third-person is usually what you want to be using. You can toggle between the two, and there's no... Actually, I don't know. There might be some first-person only servers. I'm not sure. That's interesting. We've just been playing on servers that have third person. I don't know if there's first person only servers.
Very interesting. I mean, have you heard much about the new XCOM game?
I've heard a little bit about it. Yeah, I have.
Is it like pretty much exactly like the XCOM Enemy Unknown?
I hear that it's much like the first one. But very, very polished, and people seem to be very, very happy with it. Like hardcore XCOM people seem to be really happy with it. I have never played XCOM, so I can't really speak too much about that. But it looks very good. I will say it looks very good.
I suppose if I was gonna buy it, I should probably play XCOM Enemy Unknown more, because I never really got all the way through that game. So
yeah, it's definitely a very specific kind of genre of game that I have not delved into too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, what do you think about the notion of coming back and playing some League of Legends? I know we briefly mentioned this, or I have mentioned this, but I think, because I have some friends that I've been playing League of Legends with, and when you have a team of 5 in League of Legends, it is one of the greatest games that I've ever played.
Yeah.
When you're playing by yourself, it can be cancer.
I guess that might be the difference between you and me. I have never, even when I'm like winning with 5 people in League of Legends, I never really... I didn't feel like very much satisfaction at the end of a League of Legends match, even if I won. I felt like exhausted, I guess, from like just... I don't know, like just the whole continuously farming stuff, and I don't know. I was never really able to get like great feelings of accomplishment out of League of Legends, and that's just personal preference. League of Legends is certainly a pretty solid game, but I don't know. It's never been a huge draw for me. I don't know, but maybe I haven't played with a group of 5 that I really enjoy. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Right now, go ahead. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I've just been really enjoying H1Z1, and what I was actually going to talk to you about with H1Z1 is that they have a server wipe coming along with that game split, but I'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, H1Z1 has kind of been my jam over the past, I want to say 2 months now. I'm actually surprised I'm still consistently playing H1Z1.
I would mirror that surprise, if only because I know
I've
from
never
personal
been able.
experience.
Yeah,
you like to bounce around on games. That's not to say it's bad.
Yeah, it's not even that I like to, honestly. Like, it's just I burn out on games ridiculously fast, or maybe I won't even be interested in the game, but I'll try it anyway and just be like, I don't know what it is. I'm not sure if there's other people like me on this, but I very quickly became jaded to a lot of games. I mean, I share my Steam library with my brothers, so we all use the family sharing feature.
Yeah.
And so I have 394 games in my Steam library right now.
Oh, wow.
And I'll just scroll through there and I'm like, I mean, there's like nothing I want to play in there. It's quite interesting. It definitely takes, I think, a special game. I think that feeling, like, adrenaline, and I think that's kind of what I like the RuneScape Wilderness. Another feeling I really enjoyed when playing games was RuneScape, when you kind of started with nothing. I think that whole starting from nothing, making something out of nothing feeling is what I really like.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit of that, probably. I remember a long time ago in the RuneScape 2 days, like probably 2005 to 2007, somewhere around there, when I was in junior high or something like that. I don't remember when that was, but not having very much money and then figuring out a way to make money, like using other people, and I don't know, it's a very satisfying feeling. And H1Z1 gives you a little bit of that, also with that adrenaline and that high risk factor.
Okay, sure.
I think I'm just not in the mood right now to play MOBAs. I think that's what it is. Or I don't want to say highly competitive games, because H1Z1 is competitive. It's just not as competitive.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Okay. Interesting. Now, have you heard? Cause I recently I peruse Reddit, as I'm sure many people do,
mm-hmm.
and I've noticed a lot more of the Battlefield 4 GIFs popping up, and people doing...
What subreddit is this?
On games.
Okay.
And I guess I'm confused. Did that game suddenly rise from the dead? Or did they do something to that game that made it good again? Because I seem to remember that game being awful.
I don't think the game was ever awful. I think when it launched, it was terrible because apparently they had really bad netcode.
Oh, interesting.
But that got patched pretty quickly and fixed, and people were like, yeah, this is a solid game. Now, the reason why I've never purchased Battlefield 4, and I probably won't ever purchase Battlefield 4, is because that's not really what I'm looking for from Battlefield. If I want to play kind of a deathmatchy game, I'm going to play Counter-Strike Deathmatch, which is, very different beast than Battlefield, obviously. I'll probably going to play H1Z1, probably going to play Call of Duty. If I'm looking for a tactical, really good-looking game, I want to play something more along the lines of, much like you, Bad Company.
Exactly.
Bad Company is what I want to play. I want to play Bad Company 3 or whatever it's going to be if they ever come out with a new one. That's what I want to play.
Bad Company, I went back and played. At one point, I was back home, and my brother had left his Xbox 360 there. And he had Bad Company too, and I jumped on it, and it was one of those bittersweet moments where I got on and it was dead. There was one game of each match type going.
Yeah.
And it was just people goofing around doing stupid stuff. And it was sad because I remember that game being such a magical game. And the bullet drop was perfect. The balancing was perfect.
I think it's the game pacing that I really like from that. The pacing of the game. You run around, you go to strategic points, you kind of camp out, you have people helping you. What's it called when you see other people, like the sight spotting? Yeah. Spotting was really important. I mean, just that pace. And there is a game I think coming out that has pacing like that. But that's what I really enjoyed from Bad Company. Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 3, more so Battlefield 4. It's really fast. It's really fast. Which isn't a bad thing. That's just not what I'm looking for there. So
sure, and that's still through the EA or Ubisoft Uplay, right?
No, this is through. This shows how much EA Games. EA has their own launcher as well. What is it called? I have it on my computer.
Uplay. That's weird.
No. Ubisoft is Uplay. EA has this other thing. I don't know. EA Game Launcher. What is it called? Origin.
There you go. Wow. See, that says something when you can't remember what the name of their launcher is because it's so it just doesn't stand up to Steam. Steam wins. They have won. Yeah,
but I mean, there are games that you have to get on Origin, so people are gonna have. I mean, I have Origin. I had like 100 megabytes in updates just now when I launched it, so it's been a while. The reason why I haven't tried playing Bad Company 2 is because I don't remember which account I have the key on. So when you launch it on Steam, it opens up the game, but you have to log into the game with an email and a password.
Sure.
And I know like 3 EA accounts I have, none of which apparently have Bad Company 2 on them. So I guess I have to buy another copy if I want to play.
That's a bummer.
It's really unfortunate, yeah. That's how it works. But hey, it is what it is. I wish I could. I wonder. I could probably play single player, but I'm not interested in single player. I already played it. It was good, but I want to see if there's any servers still active on PC.
Yeah, I definitely think that if I can find my account, I'll go back and try and play a little bit of Battlefield 4, just because the one thing I always liked in Battlefield was the sniping. I thought it was really impactful. It felt heavy.
The weapon feel, it's really good.
I thought I said impactful twice. That's the degree of my.
But I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like how Diablo 3 feels. There's weight behind what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, that all aside, if you could get me to play one game, would it be H1Z1?
Right now, yes, but yeah, it'd be H1Z1. I think, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But H1Z1 is still in early access. It still has its bugs. It's still like there's hackers.
Oh, really?
It's not rampant hacking. At least it hasn't been. It depends. We were on a server that definitely had some hackers, but we switched servers and it's been fine. They do have a report feature. They do actively take care of hackers. They were testing BattleEye, using BattleEye anti-cheat. Cool. So they're definitely trying to lock down on that. I don't think it's as bad as CS:GO, but that might be just because there's more people playing CS:GO. I don't know.
Sure.
I'm trying to say that it has its fair share of issues. It's not a perfect game by any means, but as far as early access games go, I think it's pretty good. I think that the only reason why, like, I get pissed when I'm playing Battle Royale and people bug abuse. I don't even know if it's a bug or if this is intended, but there's this thing where if you're sprinting, you can press Z, which is the hotkey for proning. You can press Z, and immediately after you press Z, press Shift again to sprint. And basically what happens is there is little to no animation in between proning and sprinting. So you actually can sprint, instantly prone. So you go from a standing upright position to instantly being lying on the ground. And you can spam that. So you up, down, up, down, up, down. So it basically makes it completely impossible for someone to hit you in the body. You pretty much have to aim at the ground and hope that you're going to get them while they're proning. And people abuse the crap out of that. So you see people just running around pretty much just spamming all this stuff, which makes it impossible to hit them. Just really, really trying to abuse all the bugs as much as they possibly can. You have a lot of players doing that. So, and I don't know, it makes you wonder why, like, what are the developers doing that's still in the game and it's kind of a big pain? Like, it's been in the game for a really long time. I've only been playing the game, I think I bought it maybe like 3 months ago, and apparently it was in the game for much longer than that. So there's like some little things in the game where it's like, what are the developers doing? What are they? I don't know. Development on Survival has been very slow in the past year, I hear. We're hoping that that's going to change with the game splitting, but who knows?
Okay.
I'm happy with the way the game is right now in Survival. It's a lot of fun. There's plenty for me and my friends to do. I have clocked, let's see, how much time? Keep in mind there is a little bit of inactivity time there as well with having it open, but I have 202 hours on H1Z1 in the past. Is there a way I can find out when I bought this store page? Because I'm curious. In the last 2 weeks, I've played 51 hours, apparently. Which isn't like a crazy amount, but for me, that's decent. So 25 hours in a week.
Yeah.
Past 2 weeks.
I literally just went and retrieved my EA account because I just couldn't remember the password. And
you got it?
I definitely do have Battlefield 4 on here.
Yeah,
so.
I remember you buying it and not being impressed when you first bought it. That's what I remember.
Yeah, but we will see. Because I think what I heard, and I might get people telling me this is wrong, but I seem to remember that they allow people to actually build maps now.
Oh.
So if there's community-built maps, I could see this game being way better.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things I always had a problem with, was I felt some of the maps just weren't very well made.
There's actually, what's interesting is I don't want to get anyone's hopes too high, but I do remember reading some rumors about potential Bad Company games being developed.
That sounds...
if you look up Bad Company 3... Okay, well, you have a community-written Forbes article. I don't really want to click on that. Ooh, that doesn't look good. I don't know. I do know that Polygon had an article where the title of it is DICE has a third mystery game that it's not showing at E3. And there's obviously speculation. People are pretty convinced that they're not going to make a Battlefront just because they won't get nearly as much money as they would if they just keep rehashing Battlefield. But I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, I think besides H1Z1 and Firewatch and a little bit of Civ 5, that's pretty much all I've been playing. I did get my RuneScape membership again. I keep popping in. They had a pretty big update, so that's why I got the membership to check out what was going on the market there.
What exactly did they change?
They added a new skill, actually, called Invention, which they are touting as their first and new elite skill. So it has very high requirements to actually do that skill. So you have to have like 80 and 3 stats to be able to do that skill. However, the reason why I was intrigued and why I think a lot of people are intrigued, because the skill, and by design it does this, doing the skill requires the action of destroying items in game. Because the game, I don't know if you've played RuneScape in the past couple of years, but it had this issue where the only way to reliably make money, like good money, was to kill things. Doing like actual gathering skills like mining, like everything was kind of backwards. So if you wanted to like get really fast mining XP, you didn't mine for things that you used to smelt. You like did these crazy weird methods where you got something and you just dropped it. And so the most efficient way to do every skill was to go kill things to make money and then buy the pretty much the middleman materials, right? And then just do the last step in the crafting process. But this gets rid of a bunch of items in the game, which completely like rocked the entire market. So everything is like crazy. There's a lot more demand for items because they can be dismantled for invention. So weapon prices on everything went up. And like cannonballs, Michael. Cannonballs were good money. Cannonballs were like smelting cannonballs was like 1.2 mil an hour. If you had the Mauritania legs, which is something you basically, if you do like a bunch of achievements for a certain city, you get some like a piece of armor from them, and it allows you to smelt 2 cannonballs at once instead of 1. So it doubles the speed at which you smelt cannonballs. You can make 2.5 mil an hour from smelting cannonballs. Just to like kind of put things into perspective of like what all. There was a lot of like rune crafting was super viable again. It might still be viable. There's just a lot of things that became like suddenly doing these skills where you get XP as well was good money. Whereas before doing all that was a complete waste of time.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, so that kind of interested me a little bit. I wanted to get membership and check out what was going on there.
Well, that's quite cool, actually. So I just kind of back to the Battlefield thing, though. I just went on there, and evidently they had since released a couple DLCs, being Legacy Operations, Community Operations, and Night Operations.
Okay.
Back in 2015, and they're all free. So
really, did you buy the season pass or something like that?
I don't. No, I didn't. All I have is Battlefield 4. So, and I mean, I think I don't see a season pass on here, but there are other DLCs in here though. They're all kits, so they're kits and bundles. Mm-hmm. Those aren't free. So I presume that they just wanted to kind of reinvigorate the game, so they're just giving out these newer DLCs.
Whoa, Battlefield 4 came out October 29th, 2013.
Yeah, it makes it feel old, but evidently it's still a live game. So we'll see. Actually, I'm curious to see what the community is like in this game.
So here's owners of Battlefield 4 Premium will get free access to all Battlefield 4 DLC, while the rest will have to pay for each individual expansion.
Okay then.
So you must have
premium.
Yeah, you must have that.
Interesting.
Which I'm not sure if you had to pay extra for that or what.
I couldn't tell you, but what I can tell you is the internet that I have at my current apartment is outstanding.
Is it?
Right now, it's this company called First Step Internet, and they put in a fiber optic line in my apartment complex, and I get.
They put it in, or it was already there?
No, they put it in.
So when you ordered this, they came and installed it?
No, they had installed it for the entire complex at the complex's discretion, and then basically started advertising to all the people in the complex. Because the only other person that you could get internet from was either Time Warner or Frontier, both of which are garbage.
Right.
So this company, at the best times, I'm getting 50 down, 50 up, which is glorious.
That's more than double the upload I get, which I am very jealous of.
And the best thing is, it's only $50 a month.
Wow, that's crazy. Standalone, right? You're not having to like get a package or anything to
Nope.
to get that nice price.
Nope.
That's kind of like here at my parents' house, we have great internet, but it is bundled, and we really don't need the cable anymore because we recently got I hate how they call it smart TV, but a TV with internet capability. So, we have the Netflix app on it and stuff like that. And we also have Chromecast. So we're pretty much covered. There's very little actual TV watching we do, but we wouldn't save that much money if we dropped the current package we have and just got internet only. And Comcast prices it like that on purpose, so they can get that extra $10 a month out of you, or whatever the difference is.
It's so ridiculous.
I will say, however, that despite all of the negative air surrounding Comcast, and I think I've said this to you before, we have impeccable uptime in service. I cannot remember the last time I lost internet. I can't remember the last time that happened. I have like crazy router uptimes of like weeks without a single drop. And I've had very good service experience in the past when there have been issues. But I think I have like 110 to 120 down and 20 up or something like that.
Ooh, really?
Which is nice, but I would rather have the upload than all the extra download, because at a certain point, it's like, I don't know.
I get what you're saying.
Once you have like 50 down, you don't need that much more, unless you're like, I'm going to download 50 gigs of movie files and I need it done quickly. Besides, like, if you're doing this stuff, you're downloading overnight or whatever anyway, so it's going to get done, so it doesn't really matter that much. But
yeah, exactly. Though it is nice to have it just on those rare occasions.
Yeah, when you're it's like late night on Skype with your friends or whatever in TeamSpeak, and they're like, "Oh, hey, you want to play like some Left 4 Dead 2?" and you don't have it installed, and you can just like install it in a couple seconds. That's always nice.
Yeah, I'm downloading Battlefield 4 right now, and it's trucking at about 6 megabits per second, or megabytes per second rather.
There you go.
But it's still gonna take an hour because it's a 24 gig game.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so ridiculous. Though that's one of the reasons why I like having my 2 terabyte hard drive.
Is that the one? Is that the old one, or is that a new one?
New one.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say that would have been impressive if you had a 2 terabyte hard drive from that long ago, because I don't even think they made those.
Yeah, back then they were ridiculously expensive.
Yeah. Are there any games that you're looking forward to being released? Any releases besides Overwatch that you're looking forward to?
Half-Life 3, Kappa?
Half-Life 3. Yeah, Half-Life 3, I don't... You know why no one knows? Because if they were making Half-Life 3, they wouldn't tell us.
Oh, of course not.
So that's why there's always like that little bit of a possibility, that small little bit of hope, because they wouldn't tell us, so we wouldn't know. But I don't know. People are holding on to like, well, if they were going to make Half-Life 3, they would be like super different and crazy, like taking advantage of new tech, so it'd be like built with VR in mind, blah blah blah.
I don't know about that.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't think as much as they probably would have the option to incorporate it, by no means are they going to build around it. Because 99.9% of computer owners are all going to have computers still, and you're going to only have like very, very small portions of the population that actually have VR until a very long time down the road, rather.
Yeah, this is true.
Otherwise, to answer your question, though, to be perfectly serious, I think the game I'm looking forward to, it's really Overwatch, because I'm really excited to have my own, like, a permanent progression on an account where I can play whenever I want, and it's just gonna be it's just awesome.
I'm just disappointed I didn't get into the closed beta. They had when they reopened the beta, they sent out some more invites, and I did not get in again. Still not in. Pre-sales available. PC, PS4, Xbox One.
You know, you would think they would let you, if you bought it ahead of time, they would give you access.
Well, yeah, but then that's not really a closed beta, is it? Well, not a real closed beta. I guess they should say beta. Yeah, I guess they should say invite only. I don't know. For me, obviously Overwatch. There's a couple of other games, but I mean, I would love for DayZ's development to finish and for that to like become a complete product. I don't think that's really ever going to happen. I actually haven't checked up on DayZ in a while, but I think that games like DayZ and H1Z1, they have so much potential and they just never seem to like come to fruition, I guess. And Rocket, who was I think he was like the lead dev or something, you know, for DayZ, did mention that he wanted to make a game like that come to fruition, like make a game like that just is fully featured and, you know, has the netcode, has the ability to keep up with all the demand you need for a first person shooter that has such precision at such long range and all that stuff. So I think there are people trying to do that. It's just it hasn't happened yet. I feel like H1Z1 has been the closest, just because they have the base building, they have the gunplay. They just don't have the realism that DayZ had, and realism isn't always better. But I really liked the level of realism in DayZ. I think they did a really good job with that. Yeah, I guess I'm just waiting for games to come out of early access. I don't think there's any big games that are really on my radar. I saw the Tom Clancy's The
Division.
The Division, and that doesn't really interest me very much. It looks good, but I don't know. It doesn't really catch my eye. It doesn't.
I was hoping. I for some reason I think it was because I heard Force talking about it. If you watch Dennis,
I don't, but I know who he is.
Yeah, so he was talking about it on his channel, and it was one of those things where, based on the way he was talking about it, I thought that the game had already released or something, because I just hadn't heard about it before that. So I'm a little bit out of the loop when it comes to.
They had a beta that happened where if you pre-ordered it, you could get into the beta.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then. But I think that game sounds like an interesting concept of the open world perpetual FPS.
I like
PvP.
a lot of the idea behind it. It just the Total Biscuit talked about this, and it's a game where you have these guns, and when you're fighting against NPCs and even players, you shoot them, and you do very little damage. So it's a stat game. It's a stat building game basically. When I fire a gun in a game, there's kind of depending on how it sounds and how powerful it is, there's like an expectancy for it to do something. So for me, it's really unsatisfying when I'm sitting here like for 5 minutes firing at someone with a gun, like taking their health bar down slowly. And that's basically what the Division is. kind of like Borderlands. And so
Okay.
I don't know. It's like it's a really small aspect of the game, but for me, it just I don't like it, because for me, like when I fire and you get a headshot, which is a difficult shot to make, right? You know, it takes aim to do that, it takes skill to do that. You expect to be rewarded, and I don't know, games like that with these super spongy NPCs and players, it's not quite as much satisfaction for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But I think that's about it for me. I think just hoping that H1Z1 development speeds up a little bit, because I really enjoy the game and I think there's a lot there to it. I just would like it to be complete. Same with Killing Floor 2. Killing Floor 2, H1Z1, DayZ. Please keep working hard and don't die on me. Although
I'm not sure if you feel this way, but I feel like there's the turnover on games, like the fail rate on games seems to be
very high.
I'm not sure if it's always been that high, or if it's just one of those things where you only see the games that are successful, therefore the games that aren't successful never really log in your brain.
I think it's because we now have the ability to buy into games early on in the development process.
Yeah.
There's more. I mean, media has become online media has become like so prevalent. There's crazy amounts of reporting for games that are they're like trying to get money to start making the game, and lots of documentation surrounding that, lots of articles surrounding that. They make their goal and they start development or whatever, or they continue development and they release early access on Steam, and people start playing it from the very get-go, and it's, I don't know, there's a lot of buzz surrounding games these days. So when they do fail, we know about it rather than them just being cut and just not being released. So I think it's one, the fact that companies can get away with charging for games that aren't complete now. Like, that's a very popular thing, I mean, I buy into it, right? I'm playing H1Z1. That's an incomplete game. I've bought DayZ. I've bought a lot of early access games. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but we do notice failures now because of that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of time, like, part of my problem, and one of the reasons why I don't really often support games before they're done, is I've been burned by them too many times.
Oh, really?
I've played these games where they're in pre access, and then the game is awful, and it's like, well, I'm not going to play it ever again.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of done supporting games before they come out. Like,
yeah, and that's a very safe and smart route to take, I think. Especially if you're patient and you can just wait until games come out and they're complete. But there's also the factor that companies are using that just to get money a little bit earlier on, and what they're saying is an early access game is really a complete game. It's just not like they just still have some balancing or bug fixing to do, which lots of games release needing balancing and bug fixing. So, there's some games that are in early access that you could say are games that could be complete games. Because Battlefield 4 was not launched, or at least on PC. I don't think on any console or any platform. It was released in a very playable state, from what I hear. I remember watching the videos of the netcode problems. People were leading shots by like 50 feet or just shooting randomly in the air and hitting people, because where you saw people was completely desynced with where people actually were on the server. But yeah, I'm really, H1Z1 is a very, there's so much potential there, and it's a very good game right now. I'm going to continue to play it until I stop enjoying it, but right now I'm really enjoying it. So.
Oh, right on.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to find that game yet for myself that is going to hold all of my attention permanently forever. And,
well, that's a pretty high expectation, Michael. But I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Like World of Warcraft back in the day, like Diablo back in the day, like RuneScape back in the day. Killing Floor. Okay, so what I was going to talk to you about, actually, about H1Z1, and I don't know if they're going to keep doing this after the game fully releases, but right now, as it is, so H1Z1 Survival has persistent base building, which means if you make a base, it stays there. Now there are like degradation, I don't know if that's a word, degradation timers, like over time your base will degrade. I think there's two different timers. So one timer is the actual health of the base. So if you actually go so long without repairing your base, it makes it easier for people to raid your base because the health on your walls and your gates and your doors is lower than when you first built them. So that's something you can repair. If you don't repair them, they slowly go down and people can raid them. And then there's also like an ownership timer. And when that goes down, people can come and actually claim your base. But I think it takes like 2 weeks, 14, 15 days of time to pass for that to happen. Degradation, I think, is around the same time. So bases will eventually like disintegrate and disappear. But you can't
do anything about it?
No, you can go and repair them. So if you're active, you can continue to repair your base and keep it up. It's so slow that it's not a huge factor.
Okay.
But if you are inactive, like you stop playing, your base will eventually go away. But you do still have like quite a bit of bases. People can block off certain areas of the map by building bases there. You can't build bases next to other people's bases, things like that. So what they do every time they have a major game update, a major patch that introduces new content, new items, or does big enough tweaks, they do a system-wide server wipe. So all the servers get wiped, all the survival servers. So everyone starts completely from fresh. None of the crafting recipes are discovered anymore. You don't have your bases anymore. You don't have anything. Everyone is starting from fresh. And I actually really, really like this. Because do you know that feeling when a new expansion for World of Warcraft comes out and everyone is starting fresh and kind of starting on the same page, and you're just going into I don't know, at that time, midnight, everyone is like on the boat or going through the portal or whatever it is. There's like this really big feeling of excitement, like you're a part of something. There's a lot of people playing at the time. Everyone's really active. When H1Z1, or I should say Daybreak Studios, does these wipes, that is exactly what it feels like. It's this race kind of, like everyone is trying to get their bases built. Everyone is trying to get established on the server so that they can get started with raiding. And it's I don't know, there's this really exciting draw to that, to starting fresh and like starting fast, like being efficient. Like there's a test server open right now for the next build of the game that's coming out on Wednesday. And so my friends and I tonight are actually going to play on the test server. And this is a little try hard, but we're having a lot of fun with the game, so we want to do this. We're actually going to practice what we want to do, like kind of plan out and practice what we want to do when the server when the server wipe happens on Wednesday. And there are certain bugs in the game that we know about and a lot of players know about that we can abuse slightly to help us, right? So to go a little bit into detail, there's crowbars in the game, and you can hit cars in the game to gather scrap metal with crowbars. However, if you press left click away from the car and then swing your mouse over, and then when the animation finishes, you actually hit the car, your crowbar doesn't degrade at all. So that's like a current bug in the game. So we're going to get on and test bugs like that on the test server to see if they have fixed them or taken them out. And I don't know, it's exciting because this is the first time I've been this into a game in a long time. But at the same time, it's starting fresh like that is always, it feels like when an expansion releases, I guess.
Well, that's badass. I guess I'm kind of just torn. I don't really know what it is that I want to do with my gaming time, because the amount of free time that I have is very limited now. It is.
Yeah.
So I can only play so much.
Well, H1Z1 is a game where if you know what you're doing, if you learn how to play the game, you don't have to spend very much time playing it. And that's the truth. People will try to tell you otherwise, but because of the persistent base building, it's not like DayZ where if you lose things, you're starting from scratch. You have chests, you can store things, you can make progress and, in essence, save that progress by locking it away in bases in different places on the map. So I will say that while I can play a lot of H1Z1 in a day, that is definitely not required.
Okay.
If you're going to go really hard and try to raid a bunch of bases every single night, yeah, you're probably going to need to be farming materials to make explosives for that. But that's not required. You can play the game without that. You can still get explosives to raid bases. You just won't have as much. Like, we like to raid big bases, but you can raid small little shacks all over the map with much, much less effort put into farming for explosives. So,
do you think that in terms of the overall payoff, you could have equal payoff if you just put effort into raiding a lot of bases that are lower quality than raiding an individual high quality one?
Yes, and that's actually an interesting point you bring up, because we had been testing that. We found that a lot of the times raiding bigger bases, because of the amount of materials it took, we were getting very, very low. We were kind of coming out negative, basically, as far as the amount of effort put in goes on the big bases. Small shacks, however, take like a fraction of the explosives. And you can, like, the other night, we had run out of explosives, and so we were farming animal fat and bottles so we could make biofuel, which is an explosive you can use as well. It's not quite as effective, but we had, like, a sliver left on this base. It was just this random base. We were almost not going to do it. It was a small little shack, and we killed a bunch of deer and wolves in the area to make biofuel. We blow the door, and we found 600 bullet components in there. And kind of for reference, Michael, that's a lot. Like, we have never seen that amount in a big base. We've never struck big on a big base before. So we were pretty excited about that. We think it's actually more efficient to raid small bases. So we're just kind of messing around with that a little bit.
Well, you're making a very compelling case to play this game. So,
it's no pressure. Like, the thing is, I don't want you to buy the game and then, you know, I don't want there to be a lot of expectations. You know, just get what you want to get, and if you don't enjoy it, you know, make sure you don't play 2 hours so you can return it.
Sure, and I suppose even on that level, it's only $20. So even if I were to say, you know, this game sucks, I can still go and use my other $40 on whatever the hell it is.
And yeah, for me, it's like one of those things where if you see yourself playing wanting to play H1Z1 Battle Royale or Survival in the next like couple of years at all, now is a good time to get it before the game splits. So
interesting. Now, do you know if the game is going to be so it's going to be $20 per game?
Yeah, and people are really skeptical about that, me included, especially since the items. There are skins in the game, much like CS:GO and stuff. Everyone who owns skins right now, those skins will be put in both versions of the game, but from then on, buying crates and boxes or whatever for each game, they're going to be completely separate. So not only are they going to be charging $20 for each game, they're going to be, you know, charging the same for the crates for each game. And so you're going to have to, if you want to look cool in both games, you're going to have to pay double the amount.
What was their rationale for that choice?
I do not know. They had an article about it. It was a pretty short article. They were talking about focusing development a little more, and I think there's a little bit of truth to that, but at the same time, it does look like a cash grab. Now, people are just worried, okay, is this a desperate cash grab, or is this like a trying to kind of expand their horizons a little bit and focus down on making two good games rather than one kind of confused game?
Sure.
So I don't think anyone actually knows except for the studio themselves or the. I think it's Sony Online Entertainment that is publishing that. I think it's the same people that made the other game we used to play. That was set in space, shooter game. There's all these territories you had to take, and PlanetSide.
PlanetSide.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I think PlanetSide was also SOE, Sony Online Entertainment.
See, that's one of the examples of a game where it had such great potential, and then I don't know what happened.
Exactly, and that's what people are a little bit worried about with H1Z1. But I'm enjoying it right now, so I'm just gonna live in the moment and just enjoy it for what it is right now.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a smart and well-rationed way of dealing with it.
Exactly. Do you have anything else you want to say before we head out here?
No, I think I'm pretty good. I guess I will say this. I will try better to play more games so I have more things to talk about other than just League of Legends and Hearthstone.
It's not a big deal. I mean, I'm also not playing too many different games, but H1Z1 is evolving and things are happening, so I guess that's why I had a little bit to talk about on that note. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Michael. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the second episode of Shieldme Radio. Kind of a obscure name, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm just going to stick with that. I'm going to do all the branding for it. It'll be cool. But once again, thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next week. Peace.